Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session. Today, we are going to be talking about how to break into product management. Throughout the session, I'll give you some useful tips and information about what is product management, how do you break into product management, and I'm hoping that you would get inspired and interested into product management. I'll talk about my experiences as a product manager, and I'll also do my best to give you some helpful tips that will help you break into product management. With that, let's quickly jump into the agenda. I'll start off with a little bit about me. Then we'll dive deep into what exactly is a product manager? What do they do? What are some of the common myths about product manager? And what are the core competencies that you need as a product manager? And lastly, we'll round it off with how do you transition to a product manager role? All right. Uh, let's get started. Get to know about me. My name is Balaji Ananthanpillai. I'm currently working as a senior product manager at Amazon. I have an MBA from University of Chicago Booth School of Business. I have 12 years of industry experience across several different functions: QA, project management, product management. And worked across different industries such as fintech, customer experience, legal tech, HR tech. Um, and the whole purpose is purpose of the session is not to talk about my career or my background, but it is to highlight it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. You can be a product manager no matter what your background is. In fact, I've known some of the product managers who come from arts background, or some of the product manager who did their engineering and biomedical space. Uh, and there's no one single formula. There's no cookie cutter to okay, for a product manager you need to have an MBA or you need to have a tech background. You can go on LinkedIn, search for companies that you're interested in, and see what background their product managers have. And sometimes you might be surprised to see the kind of background that these product managers come from, and you'll find how diverse this field is. Before we go into this session, just want to let you know that feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to provide any kind of help or support for folks who are trying to break into product management, or folks who are already into product manager. I'm happy to connect with them as well, and someone who wants to have a chat with. That's it. Let's go into what exactly is a product manager. The role of a product manager is one of the most fascinating roles, according to me. Uh, PMs are closest to action, center of action. They have a lot of influence over key decisions. And sometimes they end up going to own their own companies. Uh, that's why it's no surprise that product management has been and has continued to show up on the list of best and most promising careers in the United States. So, how do you define what a product manager is? So, if you look at the book Inspired, Marty Kagan describes product manager as someone who combines business, technology, and design in order to discover a product that is valuable, feasible, and usable. So, what does this mean? So, as a product manager, you have to be someone who's experienced in at least one of these three fields, who's probably passionate about all three, and who's able to converse with practitioners in all of those. So, now let's talk about each of these circles as shown in the Venn diagram. We'll start off with business, go into tech, and then round it off with UX. So, business. More than anything else, product manager typically is a business function, unless it's explicitly spelled out as a technical product manager. Uh, so what does a business product manager do? A business product manager is someone who's focused on maximizing the value from a product. So what does that exactly mean? What does maximizing the value from a product mean? So, as a product manager, you should be someone who should be focused on delivering products that is valuable to your customers, valuable to your users. You have to be able to empathize with your users. You should be focusing on optimizing the product to achieve the business goals. Now, what do these business goals mean? These business goals can be multitude of things. It can be something around like am I driving enough customer satisfaction? Am I driving enough value for customers? And the value for customers can be in different forms. Or it can also be like, am I able to drive like enough annual recurring revenue? So these are some of the kind of things that would be like business goals. Okay. Now we'll look at tech. What does tech or technology mean? uh, Technology doesn't mean that a product manager needs to have uh, a tech background or a computer science degree. The key here is, are you able to understand the tech? Are you able to have those conversations with your engineering team? Are you able to understand the level of effort that is involved in making the right decision? So it's just not about like what are you building as a product manager, but it's also able to understand how you are actually going to be building these things. So are you able to understand how you're building this, and are you able to understand those conversations with the engineering team? Lastly, user experience. Product managers typically and generally they are great in dealing with users. They're great in advocating for customers. That's why in some of the companies you might exactly see this term or terminology called voice of the customer. Product managers typically are voice of the customer. As a product manager, it would be beneficial to have that passion for user experience. Um, and again, this might not necessarily be true if you are someone like a platform product manager or an API product manager. It's always good to have that kind of an intuition, that kind of a knowledge about user experience to make that right decision for the users. Uh, so as a product manager, what do? You test out the product, you talk to your users, you gather feedback, you conduct market research. So these are kind of things that would fall under this umbrella of user experience. Now, let's quickly jump into, okay, we've seen what exactly is a product manager. Now, let's see what does a product manager exactly do. So it starts off with setting a vision for the product. Okay, so how do you set the vision for the product? Three keywords: research, research, and more research. You have to research your market, you have to research your customer, and the problem that the customers are having that you're trying to solve. So for doing this, you have to assimilate. You have to collect a lot of data. It can be feedback from customers. It can be quantitative data from your web analytics. It can be research reports, market trends, statistics, name it. You need to know everything about your market and your customer. And then what you do is you take up all this information to come up with ideas or define a vision for your product. The key thing to notice is your vision addressing the customer problem. If not, you have to go back, revise, iterate. The next important thing is communicating the vision. Communicating the vision and addressing it to the leadership team. Now you have the vision. What do? You need to evangelize the vision. You need to meet with different teams, spread the word about your vision, talk to them about your vision and what is the journey like. How did you come up with this vision? What made you get to this vision? And to build a successful product, it's just not dependent on product managers. It is dependent on the team that builds the product and sells the product. If you aren't able to evangelize your product, of your vision, or if you aren't able to clearly articulate your vision, that means you're either not passionate about it or you did not come up with a good vision. Then, okay, let's assume you've evangelized the vision, you've spread the word, you've gotten commitment from leadership, and you've even gotten funding. What do you do next? You define and iterate the product as you go, as you move. You solve problems as they pop up. You closely manage the scope so that you can get the product out of the door in time and help address the customer problem that you're trying to solve for. Once the product is out there, then what do you do? It's not end of the world for a product manager once the product is out there, because you have to spend time going over the data. You have to look at like how your customers are actually using your product, how your customers are finding value from your product. You have to talk to your customers to understand what do they think about your product, how are they using your product, did you solve the right problem, do your users actually understand the product. Sometimes, some of these decisions you can actually make as part of building the product itself, like usability testing, to understand what is a user's interaction with the product, will they know how to use the product, etc. But in other cases, you can actually communicate with your customer once you've launched your product to understand how they are using the product. Then executing, let's say, execution is one of the important thing, which is what we've been talking about. Like, you define the product and you keep iterating on it. Just like how you come up with a compelling vision and strategy and you communicate the vision, just like how these two are important, executing on the vision is also equally important for a product. uh, once you've evangelized your product and people agree with the vision, and leadership team is ready to fund the initiative, you go about working with your respective teams to actually execute on that vision. You come up with, like, better designs, better code, and better solutions to come up with the customer's problem. Remember, product management is an extremely collaborative function. You work with like various stakeholders to build that ideal product for customers. Okay, what are some of the common myths about a product manager? These are some of the things that I've known and I've heard. Again, not a very exhaustive list, but some of the most common myths. Product managers mini CEOs of their product. Product managers need a computer science background, or product management is same at every company. So let's start off with the first one, right? Like, this is the most commonly and most overly used phrase in product management, as far as I know. Product managers are many CEOs of their product. Now, after having worked in product management function for 7 years, I'd like to respectfully disagree with this phrase. Yeah, product managers do lead and set the vision for the product and do have the ownership for the product. But remember, product managers actually lead with influence and not with authority. The product managers, they inspire their team with a vision. They craft their strategy to achieve that vision, and they influence the team to execute on that vision such that they can deliver highest impact for the customers. Versus CEO, on the other hand, uh, they are ultimately responsible for success or failure of not just that one particular product, but the entire product, or in fact, like, the entire company. And the CEO can control all the resources of the company from a hiring, firing perspective, and they also would have, like, a final say on the budget. But product managers typically don't have all that function. Next thing, computer science background. Do you actually need a computer science background to be a product manager? Yes, some companies might be biased to having or recruiting a product manager that has a technical background, but having a computer science background is definitely not a requirement to be a great product manager. In fact, like, some of the smartest and best product managers that I've worked across in my career are someone who didn't have a technical background at all. Uh, for for a product manager to be successful, key things are like, do you have a compelling vision and clear set of goals? Do you use data to actually experiment and form and test hypotheses? Do you obsess over your customers? Are you empathetic in terms of, like, what you're building? Does that actually solve for the user's pain point? These are some of the things that's very important for a product manager. And also, as a product manager, you need to bring strong leadership, effective communication, and the ability to inspire others. Remember, product managers, they lead with influence and not with authority. So, are you able to influence and inspire people to build the product to solve that customer problem? Lastly, product manager is same at every company. Not necessarily true. Product manager, it can be different in terms of where you're working at. In For a consumer packaged goods company, product manager could be entirely different. It could be a combination of product plus marketing. If you look at Amazon Web Services, product manager can be expected to be very familiar with cloud technologies. So it's not necessarily true that product manager is same at every company. Okay, core competencies of a product manager. Let's look at some of the core competencies. While it is true that you need to have like most of these hard skills, remember, hard skills are not the only thing that makes you a good product manager. You need to have some of these soft skills to complement your hard skills to be a better product manager. Um, while hard skills such as product strategy, design, technical skills, product development process, all these are important. I've already touched on some of these soft skills, but remember, soft skills such as communication, stakeholder management, leadership, and ownership. These are some of the soft skills that are important that will make you a better product manager. And the other key thing is networking. In a couple of slides back, we spoke about evangelizing your product, evangelizing your vision. While networking can play a role when you're trying to get into product management, when you're trying to get into a particular company as a product manager, it can also play a very good role when you're within the company, when you're working as a product manager. How do you network? How do you network with like different stakeholders or different teams? How do you evangelize your vision? How do you actually sell your vision? You have to be a good salesman to be a product manager. Okay, finally, let's get to the topic about how to break into product management. These are again like four of the common paths or common streams on how you can actually break into a product management. But remember, again, not an exhaustive list. Every person's different. Every person has their unique way or unique strategy. But these are most common ways on how you can actually break into a product manager. Um, I've been reading articles by a couple of product leaders very recently. One of the key things that came out is to become a product manager, you actually need to product manage your career. So let's look at each of these in a little bit of more detail. Internal transition with your company. Okay, so this one's probably most easy and quick route of breaking into product management. But to have an internal transfer of some kind, you need to demonstrate the skills that I've outlined in the previous slide. And more importantly, you need to have someone within your company. It can either be a manager, it can be a peer, or it can be one of the product leaders who can actually champion your case to be a product manager within your company. Like in my case, I had my mentor when I was working as a QA engineer, who was also my manager, to champion my case to be a product manager. And that's how I found my way from being a QA engineer to a product manager. The other thing is finding a junior PM role in a large company. Uh, this is something that I wish I knew, or something that I wished that was there several years back when I was trying to break into product management. But a lot of these large companies like Facebook, Lyft, Microsoft, they have associate product manager roles, or they have like a APM rolling application going once or twice a year where you can apply without having any kind of product management background, interview for those roles, and actually find a place as an associate product manager in these companies. Remember to research about some of these roles in these larger companies. And if you want further information, happy to chat offline about it. The other thing is joining a startup that has a pressing need. Okay, what does that actually mean? So startup in a typical startup world is like where you do multiple roles, not necessarily just a product management role. And why is it actually good? It's actually good because you learn a lot of things about the company which will further enhance your career as a product manager in the later years. For example, you might learn about like sales, you might learn about marketing, you might learn about finance, which might be very useful if you grow up as a product manager and end up owning your own P&L. You might even learn about pricing strategies. It might be very useful when you are trying to price your product and sell your product. So, joining a startup and showing a lot of hustle and delivering success when you have a chance will help you get into that product management space. But again, it's easier said than done. You'll need to have a vested interest. You need to show that passion for that product that the startup is actually building. And startup always comes with its own risk. A startup might go either way. Sometimes it can go like it can be an extreme success, or sometimes the startup might just like wind down after a few years. It all depends upon the company, the product they're building, and also the founder and their vision. Last thing is starting your own company. Not the easiest of opportunities, but if you are if you have a compelling vision, if you have a compelling strategy, or if you're solving a real user problem, why not start your own company? Again, not easy, not straight off the bat, uh, and quite honestly, something this is not for me. But there are people who've found success starting their own company, and people who've started their own company generally are very solid product managers. All right. So I spoke about breaking into product management, and I briefly touched upon few articles that I've read in the past on if you have to be a product manager, you have to PM your own career. Just want to touch upon what that actually means. Just like how within a product management role you set a vision, similarly try to set a vision and a strategy for yourself. Like why your vision has to be that why do you actually want to break into product management? Why product management as a career? In fact, this can be one of the interview questions, and it's always useful to have an answer for that. Set a vision and strategy for yourself, uh, and understand which companies that you want to target, at what are the roles that they have, what are some of the responsibilities of a product manager there. Uh, what are the skills that they're looking for? Look up for these companies, have a target list of companies, look up these companies either on LinkedIn or go to their careers page, look up the roles, find out some product managers who are working for their company, reach out, do a cold call, ask if they can have a coffee chat to talk more about the company, the products that they are working on. And try to get an understanding. Again, remember, don't go in with the objective of like, can you refer me to the product management role? You don't know them. And you have to start off your conversation networking to know more about the company and about the role. Uh, then, once you do that, understand what your value propositions, what are your skills, what can you bring into the product role, why are you a good fit for that particular company and for the product management role there. Try to showcase what your value proposition is to these companies. Then after that, try to apply to these companies, or actually, in fact, before even applying to these companies, try to know more about their interview process. What do they look for? Is it all behavioral interview, or is it like practicing case questions, product sense, product execution, product design, product strategy questions? Each company has their own unique interview process. Try to find out more about the interview process. Try to practice for these interviews. Behavioral questions. Go with the STAR format: situation, task, action, and result. Um, then after the then you have like product strategy questions. How do you define a strategy for the particular product within the company if you were a product manager? How would you design a product? Or let's say you've had a vision, you have a strategy, how will you execute upon the strategy? As you can see, these are some of the common responsibilities of a product manager, and that is exactly why some of the companies have questions around like product strategy, product vision, product execution. Once you have that, try to do practice these interviews, do as many mocks as possible with like your fellow colleagues, or like with other product managers. Try to ask for time and see if they can provide you with some mocks that will help you become better at product managers. And after that, go about applying for these roles. If you have connections within the companies, reach out to the connections, see if they can refer you to the role. Again, it always has to be a two-way stream. It's just not about like what can they do for you. It's also what you can do for me. Find that common connection. Ask if they can refer you to that role within the company. And then once you get the interview call, it's all about like going in, doing your best, using all the learnings that you've done over a period of like, let's say 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, and giving your best shot and trying to break into product management. And here are a few resources that I'd generally recommend for either interviewing for product manager or like to know more about product management. Inspired by Marty Kagan is one of my go-to books to learn more about product managers. In fact, like I keep referring it over and over in case I have like some questions, some confusion, etc. Cracking the PM Interview and Decode and Conquer by Lewis Lynn. These are some of very good resources to interview when you're interviewing as a product manager. It'll give you some very useful tips on how you would interview as a product manager. Lastly, some additional resources. Again, I'll be sharing the slide with Product School, and you can always look at these. Are some good blogs to read on how to break into product management or how to actually manage your career as a product manager. Some very very good resources that will help you as you build your career into product management. Something that I wish these were easy to find 7 to 8 years back when I was trying to break into product management. And with that, this will be the end of the presentation. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, please feel free to DM me on LinkedIn. This is my LinkedIn profile. Thank you again for your time. Bye-bye.